Hi, everybody. I'm meteorologist Joe Chaffee. Let's go through this first event because been a slight change in terms of the model's perspective on all this. And honestly, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter in terms of what's going to happen. But it does show this is the new NAM. It has a pretty deep low just off the Delaware coast that deepens to a 979 millibar low south of Long Island. What's probably more astounding is the fact that you could have a low this intense and this deep pass by offshore during January and not see any snow out of it. But we will see probably a good 6 to 9 hours of intense rain and then done, because by tomorrow morning the back edge of the rain is already by, and the low is sitting southeast of Montauk or south of Nantucket by 10 o'clock in the morning, and then on it goes. It just races like a rocket ship to Nova Scotia. Now, they'll probably be up into upstate New York, if this is correct, and certainly into Vermont and New Hampshire. Somebody's going to change over to heavy snow for a while and get, I think, hit pretty hard, and eventually into southern Maine and southeastern Maine, and then done. So that's our first event, and I think we could probably pick up a good, solid inch and a half of rain in some places, even though it's very, very fast. You get some intense echoes that are showing up in here over Long Island and southern Connecticut and coastal New Jersey. So it'll be fast and stormy and then done. And then let's take a look. I'm going to switch off to the European real quick, and you can kind of see it here as well. See if it does show up pretty well. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. Now, the problem with the European is I can't see the in-between. So this is always an issue with that model. Or I can see it, I just can't show it to you. Let me just switch off to another region here so you can see it a little better. So we'll just go to this. And we'll switch off to this map so we'll get rid of some of the lines. And you can see this is for this evening. It has a low in central North Carolina. Seems to have gotten all of a sudden this idea with this primary secondary. Here's a deep primary low. And this is, this was astounding how the models were trying to make this disappear, but the primary kind of holds on. You can see it goes from a 992 to a 971. So we split the difference. Tomorrow morning, there's probably a 981 low or a 980-ish low that passes south of Long Island and passes very, very fast. This vortex is keeping all the Arctic air from coming in and getting involved in this. If the primary had completely disappeared and the vortex had swung a little further east, then yeah, maybe we'd be talking about a change over to heavy snow here, but I just don't think that's going to happen. And then here we have Sunday. Another disturbance. This is the possibility of a cheap thrill Sunday night into Monday. Lows well offshore, and then that becomes one low east of Nova Scotia. Very, very cold air comes in for early next week. And then the model does have another low, or at least it tries toward the end of the period to take a low off North Carolina. I don't know how much cold air there'll be. There'll probably be some, maybe not so much aloft, but perhaps down at the surface. But you know what? That's 10-day speculation. And at this point, I don't think we should really worry too much about it. But let's switch off and take a look at the profile over North America, because there are things going on that I think are going to lead to a bit of a pattern change again. The block is going to break down. All the models show that. And you can see we go from high to low pressure here over the period between now and Friday. And the issue is going to be how much cold air is going to be able to come down. And when you look at this flow we're talking now Monday, January 25th, the flow from Canada gets up possibly into New England here, but for the most part, we're back to this, sort of Pacific flow, at least for a while. I don't know I don't think this is done transitioning over to whatever it's transitioning to, but for the time being, it looks like the block, the block from the North Atlantic Oscillation is going to break down, and that's not a surprise because usually the blocks don't last too long. But there are you still have some semblance of a ridge out in the west. You can see it here on the GFS. GFS is a little colder naturally, but you can see it on the GFS here. There's still some semblance of a ridge. So that part of it is at least intact. And this bottle, as we move it along, actually wants to make another trough. So the GFS is different from the European in that it holds more of the flow out of Canada, but the block does still break down even on this bottle. And then as we move on, it's not that bad in terms of winter weather. It's nothing extreme, but it still has the same. It still keeps the flow from Canada intact, and we've got weather systems moving along the southern stream. But it looks like we're transitioning into something else as we go into February. And again, I don't know what that is. I can't seem to be able to visualize it at this point in terms of what it's going to look like. But here's the block, and you can see how the block just basically breaks down. And this is perfectly reasonable. It's replaced by a vortex. There's still some semblance of a cold flow on this bottle, which goes out to day 16. The European only goes out to day 10. So we'll see what the day run does, and we'll reevaluate all this later today. I'll put up a couple of posts, and we'll see how it goes with regards to tonight into tomorrow morning. So have a good Friday, and hope you enjoy your weekend.